what you're seeing here is a little reshade combination I made called fake tracing. It essentially has minor versions of the effects that ray tracing does, but this, like ray tracing, well, not really ray tracing, but RTGI. For those who don't know what RTGI is, it's a version of ray tracing that's you're able to use on reshade, and you can essentially use on any game. This is similar to fake tracing is similar to RTGI as opposed to full-on ray tracing. Full-on ray tracing is legitimate actual ray tracing in games, not just a reshade effect. Let's get that out of the way. So if you refer to RTGI, you know that's the reshade one. If I refer to fake tracing, it's what I made. And actual ray tracing is the actual genuine ray tracing you'll see in games. So what I made here, again, is essentially fake tracing, minor versions of what ray tracing actually does, or RTGI. However, like RTGI, it's applicable to any game, with an asterisk near that. There's lots of games where certain effects won't quite work right as others, won't work as well as others either. Opposing Force here is one of those games that does work well. Sort of. That's also an asterisk near that. There's plenty of games that work well with fake tracing. There's also a great amount of games that don't. Opposing Force, you may think it looks great with and without reflections. Again, fake tracing is all customizable. So if there's an effect you don't like, you can turn it off. Like the MXAO, which is the shadows you see around certain objects, and the screen space reflections, which are reflections. That all can be turned off. The problem I have with opposing force fake tracing is that whenever you alt-tab, or sometimes not even doing anything, sometimes when you boot up the game in general, the game will end up looking like that, or that. The whole game completely shits itself sometimes, and this is not an effect of fake tracing. It does this even with all the effects turned off. I don't know why, I don't know if there's a fix, maybe just because the game's so old. It did this to the original Half-Life as well. I didn't even bother testing Blue Shift because it would probably be the same. But yeah, so it doesn't... Fake tracing makes the game look better when it works. When it doesn't work, it misses the mark completely and makes it look 10 times worse. Things literally textureless and just white. It's really unfortunate because I was really looking forward to playing the original Half-Life and Opposing Force with these graphics mods. Albeit I can't play Black Mesa, but Black Mesa does play more similar to Half-Life 2. At least when I played it did, albeit that was a few years ago. So I do want to play the original game, and again, I always could just hop back into it, but I feel like graphics mods are preferable and are more preferable. Yeah, preferable, they're the same thing. But I feel it would be nice to have some graphics mods for Half-Life that actually work and whatnot. Again, fake tracing is perfect for that because fake tracing, it works on these older games, say 2004 and below. That's what I think fake tracing is generally perfect for. So when you see a game like Half-Life, you think it works perfectly, but just a bummer that it ends up breaking it at times, which is really too bad. I'd love if we got an actual ray tracing patch for Half-Life, albeit I couldn't run it, but if I ever did get an RTX card, it would be something I could do. But for now, this is the best we got, and even then, it still doesn't work right. So fake tracing does work on other games as well, such as as you can see example here, Doom Eternal and SWAT 4. Essentially is a combination of different effects, HDR, MXAO, FXAA, and SSR. Now, HDR, for the most part, MXAO, SSR, and FXAA, you can just turn those on and just leave it like that. Don't even think about it again. HDR, though, does have to be toned to the game you're playing. It works differently with each game, so make sure you can't just turn on HDR and just leave it like that. You have to sort of tone it to get the best look, or else your game might be too dark or too bright. But if you can get it right, your visuals will have much more clarity to them. So that is something to keep in mind. I prefer to use, I think, fake HDR is the one I use, not I use Magic HDR. Magic HDR is the one I use, but fake HDR works well, but Magic HDR does give you more depth. However, there are plenty of games where things like with the 3D objects, the 3D effects won't work, such as MXAO and again FXAA, where they just won't turn on, and I can turn them on, but nothing happens on screen. Sometimes they work, just are broken, so it's not perfect. It's not like RTGI or ray tracing where if you turn it on, it's going to work right off the bat. When it does work, it works extremely well. When it doesn't work, it ends up being terrible. So, well, maybe not terrible, but fake tracing as a whole, when it doesn't work, can sometimes be terrible. When it semi-works, it's more of a life is good, but it could be better situation. It's like, hey, the game looks nice, but it's not actual fake tracing, it's just the game with HDR. Which is really too bad, because there's lots of games here that people would love to play with these effects, and but they just don't work right, which is a really it brings a lot down for a lot of players. World at War, I noticed, does work with fake tracing. However, the MXAO, first of all, I wouldn't even use SSR on it. You're mostly in beaches and jungles, and then you're also in towns with dirt roads and cobblestone roads, so there was really no point for SSR to be used because you're not in metal corridors like you would be with Half-Life. However, I did notice there's a lot of bleed through when it comes into the MXAO. There's a lot of bleed through, and again, it just looks weird at times, especially if you throw like a smoke grenade or something, or if there's muzzle flash, it all just bleeds through, and it doesn't quite look right. Again, it's just really too bad. So that's a demo for fake tracing. I was planning on making a longer video about this, but I decided just to leave it as is. If you enjoyed this video, check out my other ray tracing or reshade videos. But yeah, in a nutshell, fake tracing, when it works well, it looks great. When it doesn't work, though, it all just goes to hell.